today's episode, it is all about geysers. All kinds. Hot springs of all shapes and colors. Mud pots and even the lowly fumaroles. Also, lakes. Small, large, rivers, waterfalls, canyons. Well, one canyon. Wildlife, particularly bison, as we visit America's first national park.
I'm riding in my RV, wherever I want to be, 'cause I'm free in my RV.
Good morning, everybody. Beautiful day here in Grand Teton National Park, but today we're moving. We're going a few miles north to another great national park, Yellowstone. As I mentioned, still in Grand Teton National Park, Yellowstone, just a little over an hour drive north of here. Before we continue, let's go into Dornan's, fill up the tank because you never know. And this is one of those few places in the park where you have restaurants and shops and grocery store and gas. Yeah, I can turn on a dime. I guess to go into Yellowstone, you have to go into Grand Teton first. I wonder if they would charge you for both, I would imagine, right? I forgot to ask since I have the annual pass, but it would be good to know. Saying goodbye to the Tetons for now as we take one final look over Lake Jackson. Now, onto Yellowstone National Park. We are almost there. There's gotta be a way that they can streamline this process, like an express lane or something like that. I've decided to stay at Lewis Lake Campground, which is the closest one to the entrance and the only one I know for sure has vacancy. Alright, this will do, and I'll probably get plenty of solar. Well, greetings from Yellowstone National Park. We're staying here at Lewis Lake, which is the first campground you'll encounter when you're coming from the south. And it's the only one that I knew for sure was going to have a vacancy, so I decided, might as well. We're kind of an hour away from all the good stuff. We're here at Lewis Lake. I'm thinking going to the Grand Village, here the information station, all this area, the lake. And then come to Old Faithful, see if there's not too many people and we can see it, because it might be better to see it in the afternoon according to lighting, you see? If north is that way, the lighting is coming this way, but it doesn't matter. And then we're gonna go here to the Prismatic Spring, Madison, and you pretty much go around the Canyon Village. That's the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, and then go back. And then tomorrow, we'll go all the way up here. And I might save Lamar Valley for the day after tomorrow as we leave this way. All right, let me show you our campsite here real quick. We have one of these bare boxes to store food if we were in a tent or in a pop-up. And then down here, we have our picnic table, fire ring, and this whole area here, which is kind of private. I like it. So that's our site. Let's go explore Yellowstone. I feel I must point out no AT&T cell phone coverage whatsoever in this part of the park, so we're going to spend a couple of days mostly off-grid. Also, the campground doesn't allow generators, so I really hope I get some solar today. Wildlife sighting, perhaps? Let's stop real quick. Where could it be? There it is. But what is it? Some kind of deer, perhaps? I don't know. It is hard to tell from here, but it is our first wildlife sighting in Yellowstone. How exciting.
Well, our first Yellowstone wildlife, I don't know what that was. It looked like a large deer, but I don't know.
Our first stop is going to be the West Thumb Geyser Basin, right on the shore of Yellowstone Lake. Here we are. Let's walk around a little bit. They have this boardwalk because apparently it would be very dangerous to walk around all these hydrothermal features. We wouldn't want to fall into one of these pits of boiling water now, would we? Before coming here, I didn't think much of Yellowstone, to be honest, and all these steaming hot springs and all that, but being here in person, it's actually quite the unique experience.
There was a ranger talk there, and she explained, everything about geysers and hot springs, which is this, and fumaroles and mud pits. I think it was a mud something. Anyway, it's the most interesting. The color of the water determines the temperature. Like blue is the hottest, and then green, and then brown is like the least the coolest. And that color is determined by the bacteria that live in the water, which is pretty cool. I can feel the steam coming off this one.
This one is called Black Pool. Look how clear and deep it is.
Amazing colors. Let's go see Old Faithful. By the way, I don't know if I'm ever gonna need it, but I bought a can of bear spray just in case, because I'm hiking by myself, and I don't even know if I'm gonna do a long hike tomorrow, but it's good to have. $52, it's expensive stuff. If you can save your life, it's totally worth it, right? Well, there's this pullout on the way to Old Faithful, where there is 4G LTE, well, not LTE, just 4G signal. So if you are like me, I forgot to download offline maps and stuff like that. You want to check in with family or what have you. This spot has it. I'm trying to download a podcast, but that's taking longer, so that might not work. All right, we continue towards Old Faithful.
It is really a theme park-sized parking lot. Here we are at the Old Faithful Visitor Education Center. Look at it out there. I didn't film it, but inside the visitor center they have several screens with predicted eruption times of some of these geysers. And we're in luck! Grand Geyser is gonna go off any minute. It only erupts every 7 hours or so, and it is the tallest predictable geyser in the world that we know of. This should be quite a show. The amount of thermal activity here in the Upper Geyser Basin is mind-boggling. This one is called Castle Geyser. Here goes Old Faithful. We'll go back to see Old Faithful later, since it goes off every hour or so. There's the Old Faithful Inn, iconic hotel, and we'll go there later too. we are. Pretty big crowd to see Grand Geyser. And that's our 1.5 hour window. Any moment now. Originally, I wasn't too excited to see geysers. I was like, well, it's just like a fountain, right? But it is not. And you really have to be here to appreciate it. The steam, the smell, and the fact that this happens naturally, in such a controlled fashion, if you think about it. Just by the interaction of water and magma inside the earth crust. It is truly fascinating. Notice a new discharge to the left now, almost pure steam. It's like it is evolving. Very cool to see. Not as high as it was at the beginning, but the pressure on the left seems pretty legit. It's like a real show. Let me tell you, the Bellagio fountains have nothing on Grand Geyser here. Just cue some Andrea Bocelli and we'll be set. I'm joking, of course. Let's not Disneyfy it more than it already is. That was a great show. Now let's continue. Isn't that something? Ever wonder how deep it really goes? This one is called Spasmodic Geyser, and I can see why. Quite a surreal place here, this geyser hill, I think it is called, here in Yellowstone, because everywhere, all around you, it's this, you know, steam coming off the ground, and I didn't think it was going to be as impressive as it is in person. So definitely really cool to be here. And back there, that was a lucky, you know, serendipitous, synchronous coincidence that I got here at the moment that the Grand Geyser was about to erupt, you know, and it's the tallest predictable geyser in the world, which I didn't know that. Luckily I went by the visitor center to find out, and because I was gonna go straight for Old Faithful, which, you know, I can wait another hour and it'll go off again. Which goes to show, you can plan the trip as much as you want, but you never know what events are going to transpire that, you know, are going to... In other words, be flexible and follow your flow and... Walking across the aptly named Firehole River, because I'm sure there's a lot of fire in the form of magma deep below the surface. Well, it is 4:20, and Old Faithful here is supposed to erupt at 4:37, so I'm gonna get in position here so I got a good view, and then maybe we might go to the lodge just to see it. All right, let's do what we came here to do originally. Lots of people, I'm telling you. Ooh, the anticipation. Hey, what happened? Changed your mind? Another false start. Well, there you have it. Perhaps the most famous geyser in the world. And we just saw it erupt. The nice gentleman with the big camera took a picture of me taking a picture of the geyser. That's it. Show's over.
Well, that was Old Faithful. Now let's see what else we can see here in the... Oh, let's go to the lodge real quick.
It is certainly a very unique lobby with this tall atrium, pendulum clock, the wooden construction, which, fun fact, was apparently the inspiration for the construction of Disney's Wilderness Lodge. Very, very cool. Let's see if they have a bar somewhere around here. And they do. It is called the Bear Pit Lounge, and they have Going to the Sun IPA. You know me, always like to try the local craft beer. Let's continue. By the way, this lobby? It is something else, isn't it?
Cool hotel, and it certainly has that grand atrium in the middle, all the wooden construction. Very cool. And then there's Old Faithful right there, and there's no one here now. I guess we are in between eruptions, but probably came at the busiest time of the day possible.
Oh, look at that. We gotta stop, right? Whoa. This is called Grand Prismatic Spring, part of the Midway Geyser Basin. That steam coming out. So that's where all the water's coming from, right? The Excelsior Geyser crater. No, actually, the actual spring is a little further up, and it flows onto the Firehole River here.
It almost looks like a tropical beach.
Look at this. Look at the texture on the rock. This happens to be the park's largest hot spring, by the way. And here we are. This is the actual Grand Prismatic Spring, right here. Amazing. Alright, let's go back. By the way, the spring pours almost 500 gallons of water into the Firehole River every minute.
I decided to stop real quick by this waterfall, mainly because I had to go to the bathroom, but you know, just to take a break. The sun's going down real quick.
There it is. It is called Gibbon Falls. Very pretty, actually. Hello there. This was actually a very nice stop here to break up the drive.
Very nice. Now let's see if we can make it to the canyon. It's called the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, I believe. Well, we're running out of time. We're gonna make it back to the campground at night.
Whenever you see people parked on the side of the road, it can only mean one thing: wildlife. And we've got ourselves a bison. A lone bison grazing in the valley.
Well, now we can say we saw our first Yellowstone buffalo, or bison.
Let's continue towards the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone.
Of course, tomorrow we might revisit some of these areas, the Canyon Village, for example, right here. But right now it's 7:30. It's sunset is in about an hour, and I'm just gonna go to this one last viewpoint, the Artist Point, and that's it.
Ooh, more wildlife. What are those? Well, those are some tourists photographing the locals, and once in a while you still encounter someone using an iPad. And sometimes you have to be more careful about the humans than the beasts.
Definitely is the right time of the day for wildlife sighting, that's for sure. Let's check it out, looks promising from here. That's quite amazing, actually.
There they are, the lower falls of the Yellowstone River. Pretty impressive, actually.
Yeah, right now I can tell this is gonna be a much better picture in the morning, but still.
definitely tomorrow, first thing in the morning, we're doing this. Let's head back to the car. This is Hayden Valley, and it is supposed to be one of the best wildlife viewing areas in the whole park, so keep your eyes peeled. I can't see anything, so we're gonna continue.
The only wildlife I saw there was a mosquito trying to bite my finger. So, I think he succeeded.
Okay, let me guess. Wildlife. Well, yeah, we've got ourselves a bison.
Well, that was a cool bison sighting, and there's more traffic ahead, so maybe there's more. Let me see. Let me see if I can remember how to do the night vision here. Boom! Yes, we have night vision on the Sony. So if we see any other, if it gets any darker, yeah, there's another one. Several.
And it's gone. Well, good morning. I did manage to kill my battery last night at the one campground where they don't allow generators. Although I see my neighbor idling there, so I might idle a little bit just to give a little help until the solar takes over. It looks like we're gonna get good solar today. So let's get ready to explore the park.
Well, yeah, while we wait for the battery to recover a little bit, let's explore a little bit of this lake that we have right here next to the campground. Lewis Lake. Lots of new people in the campground today. The truck camper barely fits there. Where's the Mini Teenage Twin?
Let's go check out the lake.
Let's stop by Grant Village.
There's a restaurant. I can eat, so let's have breakfast. Breakfast with a view.
Decent breakfast, buffet style, nothing extraordinary, but you know, it filled me up. Well, after breakfast, I decided to come back to Minitini, and my problem is obviously not solar. Now that I have, you know, the sun is shining even at an angle, I'm power was back on Minitini. I was able to shower, you know, everything. I changed into my brand new Yellowstone t-shirt.
We've got some wildlife again here. This seemed to be elk, female elk. first thing we're gonna do now is drive around Yellowstone Lake, all the way to the Lake Butte Overlook, and then continue north towards the Grand Canyon. There are many of these vista points all along the lakeshore. I believe that over there would be the West Thumb Geyser Basin, where we were yesterday, actually.
My RV.
Well, we're pretty much driving around Yellowstone Lake, you know, to see the different vistas.
For 10 miles.
Before heading, oh, this was a nice view and I missed it. Before heading north towards the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone.
That must be the Lake Yellowstone Hotel across the lake. Coming this way, perhaps not the brightest idea because there's a lot of road construction. But I wanted to see this part of the park, and we even have a lone bison here on the side of the road. There's Steamboat Point with all the steam coming out, and we're gonna stop there for a few minutes. Steamboat Point. Very, very nice views. And all the thermal activity makes it even more interesting. What a surreal place this is. Now going up to Lake Butte Overlook. And here we are. Well, this is the view here from the Lake Butte Overlook. Overlooking Lake Yellowstone, or Yellowstone Lake. Very nice, beautiful views from up here. As Rick Steves would say, commanding views. Looking south, way out there in the distance, we can even see Grand Teton. Definitely. Way out there in the distance. Grand Teton. Next stop, Lee Hardy Rapids, here on the Yellowstone River. They have this boardwalk here so we can walk by the rapids. And this is technically the end of Yellowstone Lake, the first dramatic change in elevation. Beyond this point begins the stretch of river that eventually leads to the upper and lower falls and carves the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. Apparently a great spot to see fish migration, but that happens in May and we're here in August. Let's continue. Next stop, the Mud Volcano. This area is characterized by muddy hot springs and fumaroles, and we're very close to one of Yellowstone volcano's vents. Let's hope it doesn't go off while we're here.
Well, let's go see the Dragon Mouth Spring and then we'll do the whole thing. Continue going up. There's a lake up there.
Right before I ran.
This here is called Sour Lake. I wonder where the name comes from. You think someone tasted it? It's a fumarole. You can hear it now that there's nobody around. It's almost like pink noise. Well, if anything, it was worth the stop. If anything, just for the view, right? Of the Yellowstone River.
Continue on Grand Loop Road for 8 miles.
Is that a bison over there? Sure is! Bison alert!
We're in Hayden Valley, after all. Let's stop. Let's see what they are seeing. I think it is the same bison we saw earlier. Beautiful valley, by the way. I see something, I see something. Let's zoom in. It's a bison. It seems to be another bison traffic jam. That's what I'm calling them. There it is. Big bison. Here we are. The Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. And yesterday we did the South Rim. Today we are going to do the North Rim. It's a busy parking lot. Luckily, there's parking along the side of the North Rim Drive here. Let's walk.
This is the trail here.
There's the canyon down there. But I'm gonna keep going. There's gotta be a better view. We are really close to the falls here, so maybe I should do that first. So let's look for the trailhead.
A couple of people recognize me now. I think they're the 4th or the 5th in this whole area. So that's really, really super cool to meet viewers on the road. All right, let's go to the bathroom and then Cruise America. Remember those? This is more or less the size RV. If I were going to go to the Class C route, this is like a 21 footer or something like that, or maybe even less. The only problem with this particular model is that it has a wet bath. If they would make one with a dry bath, I'd be in.
Here's a pretty good view of the canyon. Too bad it is cloudy because sunshine would make it look a lot more dramatic. Here we are, found the trailhead, and there's some information.
Let's see what the sign says.
Not too bad. Zigzag to Lower Falls. That's not bad. Let's do it.
Okay, so we are here. We're gonna go to the Lower Falls, and then we're going to try to go all the way to the Inspiration Point. Upper Falls is closed, so an Artist Point, that's where we were yesterday. Okay, let's do it. That's the Upper Fall. That's the one that is closed. So we're gonna go to the Lower Falls, which is down here.
We're almost there.
The thing is, we've been going down and down on all these switchbacks, and eventually we're gonna have to go back up. Isn't it fortuitous that the sun came out exactly at the moment we arrive here? We get to see a rainbow. It's quite a view, actually. I'm impressed. I didn't think I was gonna be as awe-inspired by the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. No, there's only one thing to do. Go back up.
Well, I was gonna hike it, but I'm gonna drive it instead because, you know, time is kind of the essence.
What I'm going to do is stop at some of the overlooks along the North Rim. It is very crowded.
There's still 2 more lookouts.
I believe that's probably Artist Point, where we were yesterday.
Let's keep going because there's still a lot to see here. I mean, we're not gonna be able to see everything, but let's see as much as possible. Let me tell you something, infrastructure-wise, this is probably one of the best national parks that I've been to, considering how remote it is. You know, they have all these villages, I don't know how many they are, but there are like 4 or 5 of those. They all have gas stations, convenience stores, actually a large like supermarket style convenience store, and the visitor center. And yeah, the only thing missing is cell phone coverage. They should work on that, but we're here to commune with nature after all. But I would love to be able to post to Instagram.
All of a sudden, take a look at this. This northern side of Yellowstone, much more mountainous, and I like it. This here is Towerfall. Let's take a break.
Here we are, Towerfall.
Right, let's walk the short 150-yard trail to the Towerfall Overlook. Here we are. In any other context, it would be a beautiful waterfall, but we are in Yellowstone.
Well, that was somewhat underwhelming considering all the beauty we've seen.
Let me tell you, other than Towerfall, I think I like this part of Yellowstone even more, from a scenic landscape point of view. You know, I'm a mountain kind of guy. The caldera is of course unique and surreal in its own way, but I think this is more my type of thing, in a scenic sense. A tour on horseback would be cool actually. Let's take a quick break here at this vista point and admire the scenery. I think I see it. Our next destination. We're going to Mammoth Hot Springs. Here we are. What a strange place this is. It almost looks man-made. Well, this is totally different from anything else we've seen in the park, that's for sure. This area is called Minerva Terrace. Mammoth Hot Springs has been described as an inside-out cave, and I kind of see why.
We are here.
It is again one of those things that perhaps doesn't photograph all that well, but it is quite incredible to see it in person. This section is called the Mound Terrace.
This is incredible, mind-boggling. I guess without really knowing it, I saved the best for last.
Let's go up these stairs here. Very nice views of the town from this higher point. Let's go back down.
Here now we're gonna see Cleopatra's Terrace, and then boom, boom, boom.
There's Cleopatra's Terrace. Definitely an inside-out cave.
Wildlife.
Apparently, these wildlife sightings here are very common in Mammoth Springs because these folks are all over the place. I guess they come later in the day. Tired? We're gonna take a short trip to Gardiner, which happens to be the northern and first entrance to Yellowstone National Park, and it is the site of the Roosevelt Arch, which, by the way, is in Montana. I don't know if that qualifies me to add the Montana sticker to my map, but I might cheat when it comes to Montana and add it anyway.
Oh, we're in Montana. Can I put the sticker now?
Here we are, Gardiner. It looks like a fun and historic town, but we're just here to see the arch. This is it, the Roosevelt Arch, constructed in 1903, marking the northern entrance to Yellowstone. President Roosevelt himself laid out the cornerstone. It also commemorated the Organic Act of 1872, with a quote from it, which reads, "For the benefit and enjoyment of the people." Let me tell you, very tempting to explore Gardiner here a little bit, but we are over 2 hours away from the campground, and it is getting late. That Colorado has been places, huh? And we're back in Mammoth Springs.
Are you folks checking into the hotel?
In 600 feet, your destination will be on the right.
Nice of them to have a welcoming committee.
Look what I got. Wyoming whiskey. A small batch bourbon whiskey, distilled, barreled, bottled in Kirby, Wyoming. But I thought in order for it to be called bourbon, it had to be made in Kentucky. Maybe they changed the rule. In any case, Wyoming whiskey, we're gonna give it a try tonight. But now we have a 2-hour drive back to our Lewis Lake campground. Hopefully it'll pass quickly. Hopefully we'll see some wildlife along the way. By the way, as you saw, very touristy, very crowded, tour buses in and out, tourists from all over the world. I've heard many languages when I was in all these attractions. But you know what? It's crowded, but it's not Yosemite crowded. I guess this is more spread out. There's a lot more infrastructure, a lot more parking areas. It didn't feel as crazy as Yosemite did. Of course, Yosemite, everybody's concentrated on that valley. Good morning, everybody. Woke up before sunrise because today we are starting a part of the trip which I am calling the beeline. We're gonna try to make it back east as quickly as possible, still doing something significant in each state. Something significant might be having lunch in some states, and we're not necessarily gonna sleep every single state. We'll see. We're making up the rules as we go. But the idea is to make it today as close to eastern Wyoming as possible.
There's one more thing, something we've got to do on the way out of the park, and that is Lamar Valley.
It's about 2 hours to Lamar Valley, which is perhaps the one thing we haven't done, one of the top 10 things that we haven't done in the park. And supposedly you get to see a lot of wildlife there in Lamar Valley, especially at this time of the day. By the way, I don't think you're supposed to, but on this west side of the lake, there's a lot of boondocking spots, and I've seen people, parked there that I suspect they spent the night. And I saw them yesterday.
You're back online. You are on the fastest route.
I'm not.
Reach your destination by 9:03 a.m.
She says I'm back online, but it's not true.
It is gonna be a beautiful day, or maybe not. It is getting cloudy.
You see some of these pullouts that are kind of secluded? I wouldn't be surprised if people boondock there. People, don't get too close to the bison.
Okay, let me park up here. It's a tiny little bison. Not so little, actually. Causing a huge bison jam. Let's continue.
Maybe I shouldn't call it the beeline, because we're not gonna make a beeline to Hershey, Pennsylvania. I have a route that it's gonna allow me to hit every single state that I haven't seen yet.
Here we go. We've got bison here to greet us as we arrive in Lamar Valley.
Well, hello there. Greetings from Florida.
Oh man, that's a lot of bison. A little too close, perhaps? But, you know, photographers will be photographers, right? Now it's getting interesting. Not his type, I guess. Have you all had enough bison yet? Well, I have a lot more footage, but I'll save it for some other time. Maybe I'll do a bison special one of these days. And that's it from Yellowstone. Oh, wait, there's more. We wouldn't want for the bison to get all the attention, right? Just so you know, there are other species in Lamar Valley. These guys are really cute. Pronghorn antelope, according to my research.
Everywhere, yeah. So many of them.
On the next episode, we're going to drive the Beartooth Highway into Montana. And then it is back to Wyoming to see Devil's Tower as we continue the journey back east. As always, thank you so much for watching. And see you on the road.
I'm riding in my